Eloah is powerful one. So, in the day of your gladness, and so we're certainly glad to be here on this evening, and in your solemn feasts, in the beginnings of your month, ye shall blow the trumpets. And then in Psalms, that was Numbers 10 and 10, and then in Psalms chapter 81 and verse number 3, he says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, which is the new month, new moon, in the time appointed. The time appointed are Shabbat days, and also this is an appointed time for us. So whenever we come together and assemble together, you should blow the shofar, blow the horn to get things started. In the time appointed on our solemn feast days. For this, a statute for Yasharel, a law of the Eloah of Jacob. And so it is a statute that he had given unto Yasharel. And so the keeping of his statutes and his ordinances and being in order with him. And I know it's not something that we're used to practice. We're not, before we started really get into the Torah and the instructions, we didn't do that. I mean, because, quote unquote, religion we was in, you don't do that in this, because we were taught that, we're not Yasharel, we're Gentiles. I deal with it. Thank God you're in the church, and so those are some of the reasoning, the thought process we had. But when you get into Torah and you start studying this, and I would encourage everyone to, everybody hear me okay? I would encourage everyone to take some time to read the Torah, to read the book. And I would start from the beginning. And I don't know how long it takes you to read through the Bible. If it takes you a long time, you better get started, because we don't know how much time we got left. Because I know, we used to do 3 chapters a day. You do 3 chapters a day, it'll get you to the end of the year. If you start at January 1, you go to December 31st, 3 chapters a day, and that will get you through the Bible. Because we used to have read through the Bible in a year. If it's going to take you a year or longer than a year, well, you better get started. Because we don't know exactly how much time we have left. And the reason why I say that is because we see what's going on the world level with nations, dealing with nations. And I don't follow legacy news media. I don't follow them, so I don't know. If anybody's watching CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, what's that other one? MSNBC. I mean, if you're watching any of the legacy media, I don't watch them, so I don't know what they're saying. But there is a lot of conflict going on around the world. There's a lot of things going on with the leader of our country and working with these other nations. But there's a lot of things that's being done behind the scene that you have to dig and search for, especially when it comes to the wars and the conflicts. And that's why, and it does say, our Messiah did say that in the last times, in the last days, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. And a rumor is something that you hear about all the time. Hey, have you heard the latest rumor? And people just keep talking about it. That's a rumor. A rumor is talking about it but not doing it. But he said in the last day, not only are they going to be talking about it, always on the war footing, on the war path, but then there's also going to be wars. There's going to be wars. And if you were living in some of these places that bombs are being dropped, you would think, this is the end? Are we coming to the end? We had a tornado that went through here on yesterday, right? And I think it was from Taylor Ridge, coming up through Moline and East Moline in that area. And a lot of people lost power. I don't know if you did over here in Iowa. Our power just kind of went out for just a brief moment and came back in. But on the Illinois side, you had those who lost power. But I was kind of watching the storm come through, looking at the clouds and everything, and you could see the ominous clouds coming in, how dark it got, and then it was calm, and then all of a sudden, you heard this wind, and all of a sudden it was just rain, and it rained so hard it came down in sheets. It was just really raining hard. But just the wind and everything, and we've heard of the tornadoes that went through. Where was this last string of tornadoes that went through? Was it Louisville, Kentucky, somewhere around there? A whole stretch. And St. Louis, that's right, St. Louis. It really hit in the city of St. Louis, not on the outskirts, but in the city. So it just really went through that whole stretch there, that whole alley. And so on yesterday we had those storms. But, outside of a great weather event, we feel pretty safe and comfortable here. But if you were living in some of those other places where bombs are being dropped, and now, you know what it is now? Drones. You're liable to see drones flying around. They've got military drones, and it's bigger than the drones that we have, Lloyd. I mean, we got the small, little personal, commercial type of drones, but, I mean, these are bigger drones that are, they're ready to come and blow things up, and they can control them, and they're targeted. And if you have a drone, you can kind of play with it, because I know we play around with ours, but theirs is a little bit more sophisticated and for military purposes. But, I mean, because a lot of times you think of missiles and jets flying around. Well, they got drones now. I mean, they can do a lot of damage with drones, and we just seen that. But just the talk of war and rumors of war and a lot of things happening on the world scene, and not only that, but a lot of the domestic things that's going on in this country should be alarming to us, telling us, hey, that, well, we've had wars in the past. You had Vietnam War, you had Barbados, you had Desert Storm, you had Iraq, you've had Afghanistan. We started that war in Afghanistan. That was one of the longest wars in history, because we were over in Afghanistan when the Russians was over there first, and then we went over there. And so that Afghanistan goes back a number of years. But we're just at that time now, and we have to prepare ourselves. We definitely got to prepare ourselves mentally, spiritually, emotionally. You're going to have to, have a bandwidth in your heart and in your mind that no matter what the news is that comes across, whatever kind of news you get or whatever, you're able to consume it and adjust yourselves. And the way things are going, things can change on the world scene in 24 hours, at a day's time. Things can change, and we heard about those drones that went into Russia, right? Everybody knows about that, right? Ukraine and all those drones and went into Russia. NATO was behind a lot of that. Ukraine can't do that by themselves. But Putin and Russia, they're going to retaliate. They didn't say when or how, but they are. So, what does that retaliation look like? What does that counterattack look like? We don't know yet, but we will see it. And then we've got, our presidency is negotiating. His men are negotiating with Iran, trying to get something settled to where there's just not an outright war, and that could fall apart. The Ashkenazis over there in Palestine, they want a war. They want the United States to bomb Iran and just blow it all up. That's what they want. But Iran is not Iraq. It'll be totally different, than what they went into Saddam Hussein and just, destroyed, blew up stuff, and had a war with him. And but this is quite different. But you have all these things going on around the country, which we should be definitely preparing ourselves for prophecy being fulfilled. That's what's going to happen, is prophecy and what's written in the prophets is going to be fulfilled. Didn't we read that on Shabbat? Let's see what we read on Shabbat in Acts 24:14. Acts 24:14. And who is this? When it says, "But this I confess." Who's this speaking here? Is it up there? Acts 24:14. Is it up there? Okay. So when he says, but this I, who's he speaking about? Huh? Shaul, yeah. The Apostle Paul, Shaul. So Shaul is saying, but this I confess unto thee, that by the way which they call heresy. So if anybody, if you believe in the law and the prophets, then you're going to be heretical. They're going to call you heretic. It's kind of like a slander on you. They don't, you ain't, why you believe the law and the prophet? Because what did they say? If we read Paul's testimony, and let's say I believe everything in the law and the prophet, what would they say about us? Anybody know what you would be called? Or a heretic? You'd be called a heretic. Anything else? Anybody got it? What would they call you if let's say you're talking with somebody and they want to invite you apostate. I say apostate. I said what? At first I thought you said what? Apostate. Okay. Yeah, they could call you apostate. So there's a lot of things that they can slander you with, and this is what Paul says: "So worship I, El Elyon or Eloah, of my fathers." And listen to what he says: "Believe in all things which are written in the law and in the prophets." And you're going to hear me say a little later in this teachment that a lot of people who are teaching Shaul's letters don't know what's written in the law or the prophets. And that's a tragedy, because that's how you'll get misled. If anybody is teaching Shaul to me, if anybody, I want to teach you what Paul said. Well, do you believe everything in the law and the prophets? No, I don't believe that. I believe that's done away. Well, then you can't teach me. You can't teach me Shaul and his letters, who believed every. Am I right about that? That's what it says, right? So you can't teach me if you don't believe everything in the law and the prophets. It's going to be problematic. It's going to be problematic, and that's why Kepha said there's some things that Shaul taught. Remember when he said that? When Kepha said that, right? Do we remember where that's at? That he said it's hard to be understood. So in Second Kepha, which is Peter, 3:16, and he says, we probably should read 15. "And account that the long suffering of our Adonai is salvation, even as our beloved brother, our beloved Ak, Shaul, also according to the wisdom given unto him, hath written unto you, as also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do also the other scriptures, unto their own destruction." So if you are unlearned, like Paul says, I believe all things in the law and the prophets. I believe it all. If you're unlearned in the law and the prophets, then when you take Shaul's writings, you're going to wrestle with them to your own destruction. Because a lot of people will take Shaul's writings and say, well, I don't believe in the law or all that's done away with. Why are you reading that? That's all done away with. So I don't have to read Isaiah. I don't have to read Moses. I don't have to read Ezekiel. I don't have to read about King Daud and the kingdom. I don't have to study that, because all of that is done away with. I'm just going to take Paul's epistles, and that's what they are, letters. I'm going to take his epistles and I'm just going to be saved off his epistles. Well, that's not what Kepha said. Kepha says if you're unlearned, you're going to wrestle with his epistles unto your own destruction. So anybody to me that wants to open up Romans or Corinthians or any of those books and tries to teach me, and I'm speaking about me, not nobody else, and want to teach me out of Romans and Corinthians and Galatians and Ephesians. Excuse me, can I ask you a question? No, that's what I would do. Excuse me, can I ask you a question? Do you believe all things written in the law and the prophets? That's what Shaul said. Unless our book's not telling us the truth. But that's what he said. I believe all things written in the law and the prophets. Oh, I don't even think you have to read the law or the prophets. Well, time for me to go. I mean, but see, we don't do that. We sit there and go, oh, okay, well, maybe they'll say something about Moses. Maybe they'll say something about, But really, if you don't know, and that's why he gives us teachers and rahas. Translated into English is shepherd or pastor. It gives you a raha that he says, according to my heart, right? He says, I'll give you rahas according to my heart that will feed you knowledge and understanding. And he was talking to the prophet Yirmiyahu or Jeremiah. So I'm giving you these prophets so that they can feed you with knowledge and understanding. And so Shaul says, hey, I believe everything in the law and the prophets. There's no sense of even opening up Romans or any of the other books, especially Galatians, because a lot of people, as soon as I want to go to Galatians. Well, do you know the law and the prophets yet? No, I haven't even read the Old Testament. Well, you're better off, not speaking or saying, don't say too much. I'm not going to listen to you. The more you talk, the less you're going to say because you don't know anything. Because he says they're unlearned. So unlearned in Torah. And so our study has to be there. So let me show you. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4 and start at verse number 27. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse number 27. And Yahuwah shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither Yahuwah shall lead you. Verse number 28. And there ye shall serve Elohim, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. And wood and stone represents two religions. He says you're going to serve. This is where you're going to find where Yasharel is. These two religions, wood and stone. Wood represents the old rugged cross. And so I want you guys, I'm hoping you guys are mature enough to, when I speak on these things, because I do believe we have a Savior. We have a Messiah. We have someone who came to us first in his humanity to be our sacrifice. So, but what he's dealing with here, because he even tells you, especially when you look at wood and stone, he even tells you, if you go up to verse number 23, and we're going to go back down to 28, but look at verse number 23. Take heed unto yourselves, lest ye forget the covenant of Yahuwah, your Elohah, which he made with you, and make you graven image, the likeness of anything, which Yahuwah thy Elohah hath forbidden thee. So any graven image, because the covenant was, you don't make any graven images to bow down and serve. You don't do that. That's the covenant. And so what did they do? Even now, they got, they put them on chains and they put them by their heart. I mean, that it's just, you're going against the covenant. You're going against the what the words of the Most High is. But when people do that, then we, well, they must be, quote unquote, a man of God. And we do that. And the reason why we do it is because we don't know the book. We don't know the book. So people can do that to us and be our teachers and our leaders, and we don't know what the covenant is. We don't know, hey, you're not supposed to have a graven image. In fact, when we close our eyes, there's really no image of our Messiah. And as soon as you make an image of our Messiah, it's wrong. You shouldn't do it. You don't make an image of a man, because if you read this whole chapter, if you go up to the beginning, of a man, a woman, a beast, or anything, you don't make an image like that to bow down and serve like this is my Savior. This is my Savior. This is my God. And so when you do that, that is going against Torah practices and Torah teaching. But see, since we haven't been taught that, we think that when people do that, that's okay. It's okay because that's where we come from. But it's not okay. It's not okay. And there's some things that, we've been talking about the last few weeks and stuff in classes and Torah and Shabbat. What have we been talking about? The kingdom. We've been talking about the kingdom because we pray his kingdom come. His will be done. So he gives us a down payment, or he gives us an earnest part of the kingdom, which is the Ruach HaKodesh, and it's in us, and we're waiting for the physical. We have the spiritual side, and he gives us that so that we can practice on living now how we're going to live in the kingdom. So he gives us that Ruach in us. If you've been born, and that's why Yahusha says, except a man is born of the water and the Ruach, you can't get in. You can't get in. And so he gives us the Ruach in us, and it teaches us how to live in the kingdom. It teaches us how to live in the kingdom. Because if you make the kingdom, you got to be righteous, which is immortal. You got to be righteous. You're not going to be committing sin in the kingdom. That's not going to happen. You're not going to live in his kingdom forever committing sin. That's why he gives us that Ruach now, so we can practice living now without sin so that we can make it into the kingdom. Nobody's going to get away. That's why he says, I'm going to plead with you face to face. Hey, one-on-one. Nobody's going to be able to get away. You're going to have to be born again and then live it so that you can live it. I got to live it today so I can live it tomorrow. I want to live it today so I can teach it tomorrow, right? So, and then verse 24, for Yahuwah thy Eloah is a consuming fire. He's also a what? Jealous Eloah. He's jealous. He's jealous of you. He don't want none of his children going into idolatry. None of them. And we shouldn't want to either. It's Abba Yahweh. It's you and you only. All right? So let's go down to, where were we at? Verse 28. And there you shall serve Elohim, the work of men's hands. Elohim means powerful ones, more than one. Wood and stone, wood, Christianity, stone, the cobblestone, which is Muslim. Not Muslim, Islam. Every Muslim wants to go where and do what? The goal of every Muslim is to go where? Mecca, and do what there? Walk around in there and have a chance to kiss the cobblestone. Every Muslim, that's it. I got to kiss the stone. I got to kiss the cobblestone. So he knew, Abba Yah, he said, I've seen his people now. He knew where his people were going to be. He just knew where they're going to be, right? Verse number 29. Now listen to this. But if from thence thou shalt seek Yahuwah thy Eloah, thou shalt find him, if thou seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul. So he wants a commitment from you. And he knows if you're slacking. Oh, he's going to know. Because he says, I want you to seek me with all your heart. I mean, that's 100. I mean, everything. What makes up the heart? What makes up the mind? What is my soul? When you can define that, he wants it all. He's not going to take second fiddle, second seat. He ain't going to do it. In fact, he don't want you in the front seat and he's driving. Get in the back seat. let him just take over, let him drive. I have to seek him with all my heart. I mean, it's got to be, which means it's got to be very personal. It's got to be very personal. And that's why we're not in a religion. This is your faith walk. You're under a covenant, because he talks about, I want you to remember my covenant. And I want to be obedient unto his word because I'm under covenant practice with him. The covenant has already been cut. And he elevated it. How did he elevate that covenant? He did something. I cut the covenant with Yasharel as a nation. I'm going to do something better now. The blood of Yahusha. But it's the same covenant. But now we're under the blood, instead of being under bulls and goats, now we're under the blood of Yahusha. But it's the same covenant. So he did something better, because bulls and goats could never take away your sins. If you're still under bulls and goats, it won't take away your sin. But the life or the blood of his son, now that can take away your sin. But it's the covenant. And Yahusha even said, this is the blood of the covenant. And I know, in the English and everything, it's the New Testament. Now, he said this is the blood of the covenant. They just changed that word covenant to testament. This is the blood of the covenant. He's not giving us a new covenant. It's the same covenant. What's new is we went from bulls and goats to the blood of the King, or the blood of the Messiah, his only begotten son. He said, this is my only begotten son. I can't do no better than this, than to give my only begotten son for a people that I seen, that he told Moses, I seen this people, they're stiff-necked people. But I love them so much, I'm going to give my son. My son is going to die because I love him that much. And then we still see, then how do we treat him? How do we treat him? I mean, he elevates it. I mean, to a level that, and that's why none of us is going to have an excuse. Because if you have an excuse, what you're going to tell him, you're going to tell the Most High Yah that the blood of his son was not good enough to save me. Now, how are you going to rock with that? How you going to get by if you tell the Most High that the blood of his son couldn't redeem you? I mean, there is no getting by. So that's why, and sometimes I look at that and we say the house of Yah. That's really saying something. That's really saying something. Because that really puts you up on you're putting us up on, that is a high standard, I'm sorry to say. It is a high standard. Because you represent the Holy One of this book. And you're saying you're in his house. And if you really think about it, you can't be in his house and keep sinning. Just can't. You just can't do it. Not be in his house. So I was reading today, and because sometimes I wonder, Abba Yah, what? He could be so exacting, and I'm going, Abba Yah, and that's why we should plead for mercy. I'll just give you an illustration. When they were in the wilderness and they started murmuring, complaining. And Moses went to the Most High Yah and said, I can't do it. And he said, why did you, and I'm paraphrasing, why did you put me over this people when you knew what type of people they were, how they were going to be? Why you put me over? Moses got to the point where he wanted to die. He said, just take my life. I'd just rather die than have to lead these people. That's what Moses said. He said, I'd just rather have to die. I mean, he's like, why did you put me up here? You knew how these people were. They're coming at me. They're complaining to me. And so the Most High Yah says, I'm going to give them what they're asking for. They want meat. I'm going to give them meat. I'm going to give them quails. And so the wind came through. But he told them how much quail to get, But the wind came through and all these quail. So what did the people do? They gorged themselves in it. I mean, they had no temperance. Because, see, temperance is self-control. So when I see a smorgasbord, I ain't trying to eat everything. Temperance is I know what I'm going to put on my plate, what I'm going to eat in moderation, and just because y'all know your stomach is only what? I mean, you can stretch them out, right? But, I mean, we stretch that stomach. But you don't have to. But they seen all that quail. They went quail wild. And he says, as soon as it got in their teeth and everything, then it started to come through their nostril. I mean, he sent out a pestilence to kill a lot of them. Over what? Over their greed. No temperance, no self-control. I'm tired of manna. I want some meat. And then when he gives you some meat, I got to get all of it. Y'all know how we do. Y'all see some food. How many hamburgers on that plate? 10? Wow, I'm going to at least get about 8 of them. I mean, I'm just throwing that out because a lot of times when we see smorgasbord, because I've been to smorgasbord, I've seen people just pile on, and it's like, brother, are you going to eat all that? Are you really going to eat all that? I'm going to try. What is that? Well, that's gluttony, which is a sin. And that's what the people were. They were glutton to the point where it killed some of them. Or I should say a lot of them. It just killed them. He said in the book, it just came out of their nostrils. They were just gorgeous. Isn't that gross? I mean, it's kind of, sometimes the Bible is kind of, oh man, that's kind of gross. But they had no temperance, and they glutton. And the Most High Yah said, look at these people. They killed them. He killed some of them. So when we say we are of Yah, you really need to study this book and see how he does give us the fruit of the Ruach, which is temperance. I should be able to control myself in whatever situation I find myself in. Whatever situation. Because that's a fruit, temperance, self-control. I should be able to control myself. Man, y'all know how I used to like ice cream. I could almost eat a half a gallon in a sitting. Almost. But when you have temperance, a scoop, maybe 2, and then I'm done. I'm not going to gore. I'm not going to, man, y'all got my favorite ice cream. Get out of the way. Can I get some? No. I mean, that's not temperance. And there was a time where, I would really gorge myself. I don't know about y'all, but there's times where I gorge myself in eating. I did. I guess I was gluttony, which is a sin. And I did it, But when you have temperance, you start to control yourself. And I don't live to eat, I eat to live. So, and that's a big difference. I just consume what I need to consume just for, because I'm telling you, the more you eat and want to fulfill your flesh and eat all the time, it's going to be hard to do what? It's going to be hard to fast because you're so used to feeding the flesh. Whatever. Man, it's hard to turn that plate down when you're so used to eating, because you might go 6 hours and that flesh is doing what? It's time to eat, brother. Hey, it's been 6 hours ago. I don't care. It's time to eat. Because we might go from get something that, in the morning at 6 o'clock or something. Come noon or 1 o'clock, you hear my stomach? You get the crowd. It's only been 6 hours. Yeah. Uh-huh. They know how to do it though, don't they? Yeah. And they expect you to clean the dishes. Don't eat. Yeah. 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 And you don't eat in the morning. You're not used to eating breakfast in the morning anyway. But as soon as you say it's a fast, and all of a sudden, I got a problem. you know? Yeah. That's just how that flesh is. You know? That's why he said, when you're in the flesh, you can't please me. That's what he said. When you're in the flesh, you cannot please me. So, um, and so when we say we are of Yah and we're in Yah's house, you really need to study his book and understand what Yah's will is and what's pleasing unto him. Because a lot of times we might say, I'm saved and all this and that, and because you know how a lot of people say, I'm saved, but you don't even know, well, he's merciful. He's merciful. Well, he is. He is merciful, because we see that throughout the Old Testament. When we read, Genesis to Malachi, and the Apocrypha, we do see where he is merciful. Because really with King Daud committed offense. He could have died. That was there. When he gave the thou shalt not commit adultery, there was no sacrifice you could bring. For other sins, you could bring a sacrifice, and the blood will atone for that sin. For other sin, and he lists the certain sins and what sacrifice you should bring. But for adultery, there was no sacrifice. And for murder, when you murdered your brother, there's no sacrifice for that. So there were certain, and when you cursed your father and your mother, there was no sacrifice you could bring the priest. Hey, I just cursed out my ma. I cussed her good. I even struck her. She gonna survive. She got black eye, but she'll be all right. But here's my sacrifice. No, ain't no sacrifice for that. You rose up against your mother and cursed her and smote her. Oh no, there's no sacrifice for that. And we've got a generation coming up now. And they call, and you go into some of these cities, Houston, some of the other ones, they're called YN, and they're just groups and gangs of YN, and that's what they call them, YN. And these are some unruly teenagers. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We don't have to go that far, because they're right here, and they're unruly teenagers. Now, our book calls them, we call them YN, and you know what YN stands for, right? Young ninjas. So, but you know what our book calls them? When you're an unruly child like that, you're a bastard. You're not a son. You're not a son. You're a bastard. And in the wilderness, when you got people like that, children, teenagers like that in the wilderness, they're not going to make it. They're not going to survive. They won't survive. So there were certain sins and stuff that there was no sacrifice you could bring. But with Abba Yah, in the case of King Daud, he forgave him of that sin. He showed mercy, but he still judged him. Because there's sins you commit, going to be judged. And Shaul told Timothy, some men's sins go before, some come after. So if it's a sin that's going to bring judgment, you should want to be judged now. I don't want to carry that with me to the afterlife or the grave, something depending on how you want to call it. But I don't want to carry it with me, because when I come back, I'm going to come back with that. When he raises me up, oh, you still got sin on you. So you're going to have to be judged for that. That's what Shaul says. Some men's sins go before, some come after. Because Yah is merciful. When you teach the Torah and you teach the law, the weightier matter of the law is judgment, mercy, and faith. Because we see a lot of times where he's merciful, we also see a lot of judgment, and we see faith, because when you go to Hebrews 11th chapter, it starts off with who? Who's the first one that talks about with faith? Abel. So we're going way back. If some people say, well, faith is the New Testament, you way late to understanding, because faith goes back to Abel, because he catalogs all these people of faith before Yahusha came. He said they all died in faith. They all died in faith, because the law teaches judgment, mercy, and faith. That's what it teaches. So where are we at? Verse number 29. Yeah, because you have to seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. And it's not a religion. This is a faith, and it's a way of life. I'm seeking. Is there a song? Seeking after. Well, anyway, I'm seeking after Yahuwah. Chasing after him. Yeah. Well, he didn't say chase. He said seek. And Yahusha says, if you seek, you're going to find. If you seek, you're going to find. And that's what he says. Seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Now listen to verse number 30. When thou art in tribulation. Oh, ain't going to be no tribulation. We gonna be out of here. That's not what the book teaches. That's just what the heathen got a hold of our book, and they took the writings of this book, and then they interpreted it to us, so everybody thinks that they ain't going to be here. But the book says, when thou art in tribulation. And was it Yahusha or was it Shaul that says, through much tribulation you'll enter the kingdom? I think Yahusha said that. I think Yahusha says, through much tribulation you'll enter the kingdom. When thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee. He says what? In the what? In the latter days. That's where we're at. We are in the latter days. This is the latter days. If anybody don't believe that, just kind of look around and see what's going on. You don't have to look far. Look in the community. Look on the city level, the state level, the national level. Look on the world level. Look at you'll see these are the last. We are in the latter days. We are in the latter days. When thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee in the latter days. If thou turn to Yahuwah, thy Eloah, or El, and shall be obedient unto his what? Be obedient unto his voice. So in the latter days, we have to hear his voice. And shall be obedient unto his voice. So not just hearken, but do it, or what? Obey. Not just hearken. Hearken is to listen. Shema is what? Hear and that's Shema. Shema is to hear and obey. Because a lot of people can hear, but they won't. Like they said in Jeremiah, seek ye out the old paths and walk therein, where you'll find rest for your soul. And the people said, we will not walk therein. So you can hear, but not obey. And some people might hear, even when they come into the sanctuary and hear the teaching, they might hear it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So it's not just hearing, but it's obeying. That's why he says here, in the latter days thou shalt be obedient unto his voice. So you have to hear it and then be obedient. For Yahuwah thy El is a merciful Elohim, or merciful Eloah. He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers, which he sware unto them. Notice now, what is he talking about here? He says, I'm not going to forsake you. I'm not going to destroy you. And then Yahusha even said that. I'll never leave you nor forsake you. I'll be with you always into the end of the world. I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to forsake you. I'm not going to destroy you. I'm not going to forget the covenant of thy fathers, which I swear unto you. Okay? When is this going to happen? Because he tells us that in the previous verse. In the latter days, where we're at. In the latter days where we're at, he's not going to forget the covenant that he made unto the fathers. Man, that's an old covenant. That goes back generations. He said, I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to forsake it. So if anybody tells you that the covenant that he made with Moses from Mount Sinai is no longer in effect, they don't know this book. They simply don't know this book. And we give, we follow, but I want everybody listening and those who watch it and everything, you got to give an account for yourself. You need to hear this. And even if somebody says you don't have to do that, all you got to do is read it. Read it for yourself. But I know there's a block for a lot of people. There's a block because it's been hammered in us for so long. Even Shaul says, I believe all things in the law and prophet. He said, I believe it all. So he believed that Abba Yah is going to be true to the covenant that he gave unto the Father. He believed that. Somebody tricked us to make us not believe it. Somebody tricked us. And if you hear his voice and you can hear this, then you're one of the few that will return. Because he says that in Isaiah the 10th chapter, right? He says that how many are going to return? A remnant. He said just a remnant's going to return to me. And the reason why it's just a remnant, and Paul understood it, Shaul understood it, because in Thessalonians, he says he's going to send them strong delusion. He's going to send them strong delusion that they might believe a lie. Strong delusion is coming from Abba. Because a lot of times we look at it and say, them folks ain't going to be, he ain't going to destroy them. There's too many folks over there. Well, see, you don't know Abba. Because even in the wilderness, the only ones that made it out, that was over 20. Now, y'all know they had millions because in Numbers, the beginning of Numbers, when they numbered the army and stuff, when they came out of Egypt, 600,000 men that was able to go to war. 600,000. It says it right there. So that's just men that were 20 and over that could go to war. And the older men didn't go to war. So you're talking probably just in the range of 20 to 40, somewhere around there, is your men that went to war. So you had your older, your fathers, your elderly that did not go. Then you had women that didn't go. because it was against the law for a woman to put on man's garment, and that what's that dealing with is the men would have their garments to go out to war. Women didn't put those garments on to go out to war because they just didn't do it. So, and I know we look at that verse because we look at it through the lens of Rome and Rome from 1940. That's how we look at it. But that's what he was dealing with. It says a woman should not put on man's garments, and is because a woman is not supposed to put on what men would put on to go to war. And women had their own apparel that they wore. You knew a woman. Now, I know nowadays, you don't know a man from a woman. It's scary out there. It's scary because he made a man and a woman. That's what he made. Now, you got some, Satan's got some demons, some help, because, a third of them left, got kicked out. But they got people thinking, and they got the knowledge and stuff to change a female into a male and a male into a female. That's not Yah's will, but, and something I heard, because there's a lot of talk about this AI. There's a lot of talk about this AI, and you had some people that's against the advancement of AI because, they're thinking that it'll take over mankind. I mean, replace mankind one day. And so they're against, a lot of people are against AI. But the thing about what some of these masterminds and stuff who come up with AI and development of AI and stuff, they said there's some things that AI is learning that they're not teaching it. They're not teaching that to AI. AI is starting to learn on its own. And so there's a lot of people that's kind of puzzled by it. Because if AI is not getting their intelligence from man input, where are they getting their intelligence from? Yeah, it's not man. It's not of man anymore. They're moving into another realm now. It's getting out of the realm of man. We're in the last days. We are in the last days, and if you ain't on Abba Yah's side, if he's not your protection and stuff, this world's gonna get bad. It's gonna get really crazy. They talk about you can get you a robot now for the house for about $5,000 now. Get you a robot. And they're teaching our children to develop relationship with AI, where you can, because they eventually, you know how it was, a car in every garage. Then it went from a car in every garage to what? Well, it went from a house to you'd have a garage, and then how many cars in the garage? Like 2 cars in the garage and stuff. I mean, for every house, a car for every house in it, and so then it went. Then they were talking about the computer age, and you had some people that said, because some men had the vision that every house was going to have a computer in it, and some people said, no, ain't no way. IBM and some of the 3M, there ain't no way. These computers are some of the first computers you'd put in this room here. Now you put in your hand, right? But some people said, no, everybody ain't gonna have a computer in the house. Well, everybody's got a computer in the house. In fact, everybody got phones now. If you got a Social Security number, you already got a phone. That's how soon, and a lot of our children have phones. My Isha, first grade teacher, they have to put the phones away. First graders, how old are you in first grade? 6, 7? 6, 7. 6, 7, with phones. So it went beyond a computer in the house. It's a computer for your hand. Well, anyway, what they're saying is there's going to be a robot in every house. That's what they're looking for is, and you'll be able to get them for like $5,000. Get you a robot, cook you some ham and eggs in the morning. Uh-huh. I robot. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. And that's where we're heading if Yah don't take us out of here, because that intelligence, that AI intelligent, is not coming from man. It's not coming from us anymore. So he says in verse 30 that if thou turn to Yahuwah thy Elohim and shall be obedient unto his voice. So let's Yah, who at sundry times and in divers manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. Now remember, in Deuteronomy it says the latter days, right? Hath in these last days spoken to us by his son. So if you want to hear the voice of Yah, you got to hear his son. You have to hear Yah's voice through his son. And that's why we've been teaching and on the kingdom of you, because Yahusha talked at length about to the Shamayim, because he says in Yahukanan 14, right? Yahukanan 14, because everybody knows what Yahukanan 14 is. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He says in Yahukanan chapter 14, starting with verse 1, he says, ye that believe in Yahuwah, believe also in me. It says, let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in Yahuwah, believe also in me. And this is where a lot of people think that they're going up to the Shamayim. In my Abba's house are many mansions. We're talking about his kingdom to come. Oh, you have to always keep in mind the kingdom, especially because in Acts, the first chapter, in verse number 6, what did they ask Yahusha? Are you going to restore the kingdom at this time? They thought it was going to happen right then and there. He says, no. To prepare a place for you. Now, if I'm thinking like a Roman or a Greek, then I'm thinking, okay, see, we're going to go to another place. We're going to be lifted up out of here. Well, I might as well finish reading this. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again. Now, what do you think he's talking about here? What do you think he's talking about here? Yes. The New Jerusalem? I mean, the New Jerusalem is, huh? Yeah. Um, I mean, the New Jerusalem is, and it's huge. We could say that's Abba's house. There's many mansions. Um, but what about the New Jerusalem? Where's it going to be? It's going to be here on the new earth. It's not going to be here during the 1,000-year millennium reign. No, it's after the millennium reign, and that millennium reign has not started yet. So the New Jerusalem that comes down and sets on the new earth. But still, it's going to be here on earth. It's not up in the Shamayim. So, this is the house that he's going to build. He's building that house. in order for him to go, he had to go away, right? I go and prepare a place for you. I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, ye may be also. That's the clue. Yeah. 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 But do you see that clue in there? What is it? Huh? I will come again. Yeah. What was that process? Huh? Yeah, that's say that again.
I was saying, is that his resurrection? Talking about he was talking about the process.
Yeah. Do you see that? Yeah, he's going to, how did he leave this world? How did he leave them? Right, because remember now, Peter, remember he said that? Matthew 16, he says this is the process, what I have to go. Oh no, that's not going to happen to you. Even in the Garden of Gethsemane, he almost took that guy's head off. Right? Because they came to arrest him. You're not going to arrest my Messiah. I have to go away because I'm going to prepare something for you. That where I'm at, there you are also. Yes.
But it's phrased that in like a contingency though, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself.
Yeah. I mean, so if he would not had, what if he had not died?
We'd have no hope.
No, because we're going to die, right? But so what if he didn't die? So in Romans chapter 6, and then we'll go back and look at John 14. Know ye not that so many of us as were immersed into Yahushua Mashiach were immersed into his, is it up there? Romans 6:3. Romans chapter 6, we're going to start at verse 3. Is it up there? Okay. Know ye not that so many of us as were immersed into Yahushua Mashiach were immersed into his. So that's why immersion is so important. Because just like he died. So somebody who don't believe in immersion, then they don't believe in his death. I don't believe I have to be immersed. Well, then you don't believe in his death. So put your finger here, Galatians 3:27, right? Galatians 3:27. And it says what? For as many of you as have been baptized or immersed into the Mashiach have done what? I put on the Mashiach. So I'm going through this whole process that he went through. The whole process that he went through, that's what I have to do. But he had to do it first, so he has to prepare the way for us. I'm going to prepare this way for you. So that if you do this, right? For many of us, but okay, let's go back to Romans 6 and 3. Romans 6 and 3. Know ye not that so many of us as were immersed into Yahushua Mashiach were immersed into his death? Look at verse number 4. Therefore, we are buried with him by immersion into his death, that like as Mashiach was raised up from the dead by the glory of Abba, even so we also should walk in newness of life. For if we have been planted together in the likeness of his death, we shall be also in the likeness of his resurrection. And let's start at verse. Let's start with verse 12. 1 Corinthians 15:12. Really, I want to get down to, well, we'll read down to 15. Now, if the Mashiach be preached that he rose from the dead, how say some among you that there is no resurrection of the dead? But if there be no resurrection of the dead, then is Mashiach not risen. And if Mashiach be not risen, then is our preaching what? Our preaching is vain, and our faith is worthless. It doesn't mean nothing if there's no resurrection from the dead. In verse number 15, yea, and we are found false witnesses of Yahuwah, because we have testified of Yahuwah that he raised up the Mashiach, whom he raised not up, if so be that the dead rise not. But if the dead rise not, then is not the Mashiach raised. And he goes on to talk more about it. So now keep all of that in mind. Now let's go back to John, Yahuchanan 14, and look at verse number 1. We'll read it again. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in Yahuwah, believe also in me. Now, you have to understand that many of them did not believe he was the Mashiach. Many of them thought he was just the son of Joseph and the son of Mary. You're just another zealot in that day. They thought he was just another zealot. You know, and that, do you know, many of them, because he upbraided them. Remember now, after he upbraided them because they weren't even there. Where did Kepha go after unleavened bread, and because you had the Pesach, then you had unleavened bread, then they had the Sabbath. But then after that, where did Peter go? He went fishing. He upbraided them for that. What, you guys don't believe? You didn't believe didn't I tell you 3 days I'm coming back? What, you didn't believe it? I mean, many of them did not believe. I mean, would we believe? Because a lot of times you put yourself in that situation. Would you believe it? It would be difficult, wouldn't it? I mean, it would be difficult. I mean, there's a lot of teachings of Yahusha that was difficult. But you have to understand, that's the voice of Yahuwah that we have to listen to in the last days. That's how he spoke. But if you don't understand things, then that's how a lot of people get off base. But anyway, it was difficult for them to accept that he was going to rise from the dead. And just think of how you would be as we come up to Shavuot. You know, because from the time of his resurrection up until how many days did they see him? About 40 days, right? from that time of unleavened bread, even counting the Omer leading up to it, I mean, at one time, he was seen of how many brethren at once? About 400, wasn't it? Was it 500? 400, 500 at one time. Because if he was only seen by his disciples, you might think it was a conspiracy. Because it was just his disciples that seen him, right? But he says, oh no, 400 brethren at once seen him, leading up, as they counting the Omer, leading up to Shavuot. Can you imagine, just kind of picture yourself as the men who were on the road to Emmaus, right? And they're talking about, y'all know, he said he was the son of Yahuwah, and he said he was going to rise from the dead the third day. And then all of a sudden, he's walking with you. And then he asks you, what are you talking about? Haven't you heard the buzz? It's the talk of the town. It's the talk of Jerusalem. He rose from the dead. I mean, and then he says, he started bringing out the scriptures. You guys should have known this. But even for us, a lot of times, it's difficult for us to believe certain things that's out of the normal. Because a lot of times we get trapped in our minds and we can't think of the impossible. Because even Yahusha says, with Yahuwah, all things are. But a lot of times we're just trapped in a certain mindset and we can't get out of that. And a lot of them were. So I could just imagine, because I don't know, I try to put myself in their situation because I don't think, because a lot of times we say, oh, if I was back there that time, I wouldn't have done. Yeah, you would have done the same thing. You most likely would have done it. How do you know you would have done the same? Because you're the descendant of the ancestors. Just how they were, that's how you. I wonder how our ancestors lived. Look at us now. We still a stiff-necked people. We still hard-headed. We some hard-headed folk. Now, be honest, we some hard-headed folk. Some of us is easy to get along with. Some of us are criminals. Some of us can keep the commandments. Some of us can't. Some of us believe in it. Some of us don't. That's how, a lot of them were. If you ever want to look at look at the wilderness experience, because for a lot of us, he says, I have to put you through this wilderness experience and give you my Torah to do what? I have to do what to you? I'm taking you through the wilderness and I'm giving you my instructions because I have to do what? I have to prove you whether you're going to obey me or not. I got to prove you. Because it's easy to say, yay, we'll do it, like the people said. Whatever he says, we're going to do it. And turned around and didn't do it. That's just how we are a lot of times. So he says, let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in Yahweh, believe also in me. In my Abba's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. Now I'm going to go to prepare a place for you. Because if he didn't do this, if Yahusha didn't do it, I can't do it. None of us can if he didn't do it. If he hadn't died, if he just lived, we couldn't, because he was sinless. He was human and divine. He was human and divine. And did not want to die for us. But he said, nevertheless, not my will, but thy be done. So he had to prepare a place. That place that he's preparing for us is the fact that we can in our immersions, we're buried with him in death, but like he rose from the dead, we're going to rise from the dead. That's what he's prepared for. He's already done it. I have no doubt whatsoever of the resurrection. No doubt whatsoever. Why can I say that? I have no doubt of the resurrection. Why would I say that? I mean, it's a bold statement. Oh, I have no doubt. It's 100%. With me, 1,000%. Keep adding some more on it. That's how real. Why would I say that, though? What confidence do I have? The confidence is in the Ruach? Our forefathers are witnesses. Why do I feel so confident about the resurrection? I'm 100%, 1,000% confident in the resurrection. Huh? We're changed people. It's not complicated now. It's right there. Why? Yahweh said it, he does not lie. That's true. He's not going to lie. He's Elohim. He's Elohim, Yahweh. I cannot lie. And that's why I'm 1,000%, 10,000, 100,000. I'm going up. I'm 1,000,000%. But why am I so confident in what I believe? And what's the question? Why am I so confident in what? What's the question that I asked? Huh? In what I believe, but before I said that, but yeah, why am I so confident about that? He rose from the dead. He rose from the dead. I'm 1,000,000% confident. I mean, if you don't believe it, then why are you even here? Isn't that what he said in Corinthians? He says, if Christ be not risen from the dead, my faith is what? You ain't got no faith. Why are you here? That's why Shaul says, if in this life only we have hope in him, we are of all men. You might as well do like Solomon. He said, whatever my eyes seen, my heart wanted, I didn't hold nothing back. He says, eat, drink, be merry, because tomorrow you die. If that's all I have is I'm just going to live this life, and then that, boom, I'm gone. That's it. I don't have no resurrection. So he had to tell the disciples, I got to go through this. I have to go. I have to go through this because I'm preparing a place for you that where I'm at, you're going to be there too. You're going to be there too. And that's the hope that we have, is that we go through this process of life. He's going to gather his people, but he's got a lot of people that have already passed on the scene, right? And their hope is in the resurrection. Their hope is in the resurrection. And if we perish before we go through the tribulation, if we perish, that's where my hope is. And that's why I say I'm 100%, 1,000%. And you heard me say the other day, I'm not afraid of death. I don't want to die. I don't want people to misunderstand me. Oh, he wants to die. No, I don't want to die. That's why I try to eat right, get a little exercise here. Because I don't want to die. I want to live a long time. But that's different from being afraid to die. So I'm not afraid to die. I don't want to die, but I'm not afraid to die. Because I have a hope in the resurrection. Well, he's already done it. He's already paved the way for me. He's already made a place for me. And that where he died, I've already done the first part by being immersed into him. And like he rose from the dead, then I'm going to rise from the dead. Right? So, but a lot of people, when he's talking about setting up his kingdom here, a lot of people will go to this and say, see, he's preparing mansions and stuff in the Shamaim, and that's where we're going to go because that's what he said. And they haven't understood what Yahusha had to go through for us so that we can be where he's at. And now that he rose from the dead, what does that mean? He'll never die again. He'll never die again. And now that he doesn't have to die again, you don't have to worry about sin. Of course, he didn't sin. He took on our sins. He became sin, but he didn't commit sin. There's a difference. He became sin, but he didn't commit sin. But not where he's at now, and we want to get there too, is eternal life. Eternal life. That's what we want. I want eternal life, to where I don't have to worry about dying again. I don't have to worry about sin. I don't have to worry about none of that. That's for us and for his bride, right? And so that's why we try to tell everybody. Now, he made that covenant with Yasharel, but because Yasharel rejected him, well, I'm bringing some Gentiles. And even when he went out, the parable that he gave, where I'm having a wedding, and so bring in all the people for the wedding. And you had all these people say, I don't want to go, I got excuses. And so there was still availability for the wedding. So he told them, well, you need to go out on the highway, get anybody, grab them, bring them in here, and let them come in so that the house might be full. And so even when his own people rejected him, he opened it up to as many who has accepted him can come in and be a part of the inheritance that he was going to give to Yasharel. And that's how Paul understood it in the 11th chapter of Romans, where he starts grafting in because the natural branches were broken off. Because a lot of Israelites did not accept him. Yeah, even today. That's why I say if you want to know how the ancestors lived, just look at today. Because you have a lot of people who reject him today, and they rejected him back then. So he says, I come unto my own receive me not. But as many as receive me, to them I've given power to what? Become. I've given them power to become sons of Yahuwah. I've given them that power because Yasharel rejected him. His own people rejected him. So he says, I'm gonna bring in Gentiles. I'm gonna graft them in. Now they can't come in and take over. They can't come in setting their laws, because there's already a law of the house. And we see that in Ezekiel 43. He says, show the law, or no, he says show the house to the house. Show the house to the house. There's already a law established here in the house. So when others, Gentiles, will get grafted in, they have to keep the same Torah or the same covenant and commandments that was given to Yasharel. Yah's not going to have. This will be my last one, because it's about not going. Yahukanan 10:16. Yahukanan 10:16. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must be one fold, one shepherd. So there's not going to be a law for Israelites and then a law for Gentiles. It's not going to be like that. And we can see that with when you have your own house, right? When you have your own natural-born children, or what do you call that? I'm missing a word. Genetic? Oh, no. Your own biological children, right? You have your own biological children, but then you go to adopt. Because the adoption was given to who first? Given to Yasharel first. So you go to adopt. So you adopt other children into your house. Now, if you set curfew at 9 o'clock for your kids, but the adopted kids can come in at midnight, that doesn't make sense. No. I'm not having one law for my kids and then another law for you. Yeah, but the house that I came from, we can stay out all night. But you're not going to do that here. I heard somebody say, well, yeah, we didn't have a curfew. Well, here you do. You might not have had one in the other house, but in this house, you got one. If you want to be a part of this house and the inheritance of this house, then you got to keep the rules of the house. Now, if you don't want to keep the rules of the house, what happens if you don't want to keep the rules of the house? Well, ask Israel what happens if you don't keep the rules of the house. they got put out. I mean, they died. He cut them off. You don't want to keep the rules of the house? He even told them, and one time in his teaching, he says, you are of your father, the devil. he said that to them. You are of your father, the devil. He was a liar from the beginning and could not abide in truth. And if you can't handle truth and you can't abide in truth and you can't tell the truth, then you're of your father, the devil. Yep. So we're coming up to Shavuot. And just like the first Shavuot was the outpouring of the instructions on how to live, and it was written on stone. Well, we're coming up on the Shavuot now, and after the resurrection of our Messiah, he poured out the Ruach HaKodesh. So there was an outpouring. The heavens opened, there's an outpouring. And so we commemorated every year at Shavuot time. We commemorate. Doesn't mean that he's going to open up the heavens and pour out the Ruach like he did the first time, because he already did it. And what I mean by that, he doesn't have to open up the heavens to pour out the Ruach, because the Ruach's already here. It's already here. So you don't have to wait till once a year to be infilling of the Ruach, because it's already here. Because like it says in the book of Acts, suddenly there came a sound from the Shamaim, like a mighty rushing wind. And we were kind of watching the storm last night, but it wasn't like on the day of Shavuot. Because it said it was like a mighty rushing wind. But we had some wind blowing, right? Did y'all see that storm? We had some winds blowing. Yeah, we kind of had our door open. We were kind of, watching it. Then all of a sudden the sheets of rain came, and it's just like we had to close the door. But yeah, but it was on that Shavuot after his resurrection, because he told them to go back to Jerusalem. You stay there for 10 days until you be endued with power from on high, And they weren't in that room for 10 days. People have to go to the bathroom. They have to eat. They have to do all that now. Come on, y'all. They're still human beings. They were in the upper room for 10 days. No. They had to go back to Jerusalem and stay there, because that's where they were going to keep the feast of Shavuot. They were going to keep the feast of Shavuot. Now, they were, at the day when Shavuot was fully come, they were in the upper room. They were in the upper room. And when it was fully come, then boom, 6 o'clock in the morning, when it fully come, then boom, it hit, And so the giving of Torah from Mount Sinai on that first Shavuot, did the Torah go back up to the Shamaim? No. When he said the oracles in the Torah, he says, the word have gone out of my mouth. It will not return unto me void. So the Torah was given, and it's here, and it's always will be here. Just like when he gave the Ruach HaKodesh, when it came down, it's here. It didn't go back up. It's here. And that's why you see some people, you can get filled with the Ruach at any time, because it says those who obeyed him, we see that in Acts 5, 30 and 31, 32. If you're obedient unto him, he gives you the Ruach. So you don't have to wait till the Shavuot or the opening of the heavens, the Shamaim, for him to pour it out, because it's already here. And he said it's not going to be, just like commandments in the Torah came down, it didn't go back up to him void. The Ruach came down, it's not going back up to him void. So people can get the Ruach HaKodesh. So you have to be born of the water and the Spirit in order to get in the kingdom. Any questions or comments? So we will have Shabbat class here, and Shavuot on the 8th, the first day of the week, the 50th day. We'll have Shavuot here starting at 11. And bring something, because you're supposed to have a feast. Unless you guys want to start at noon. You want to do it at noon? Those who are here, we got Moray Gerard and Moray Parker. That'll be here. So we might as well say it or put it in the text. Something we're going to do it at 11. Okay. 11 o'clock on the 8th, first day of the week, 11 o'clock here, and we'll have some songs of praise. You have to open up the book and read. Got to open up the scrolls, do some reading of the scrolls, and there should be, yes. You can. Yeah, you have to get it set up. Yeah, yeah. And everybody should bring something. Do I need to make sure we have entrees here? You think? But you guys should have some, because you're supposed to have a feast. You're supposed to sit down and have a feast. Yeah. hmm hmm Yeah. So everybody bring some. I have to put it in the telegram. I have to write something up. Put it in the telegram. Um, any other questions, comments? Anybody got anything you want to add? If not, we're going to say shalom, shalom, and happy feast of Shavuot. It's the wheat harvest, and he's coming back. He's going to collect the finest of the wheat.